Hey everybody, Michelle with Michelle's For Living here. Thanks for watching my videos. And yes, it's time to continue the temperature quilt. There's a variety of things that I want to talk about in this video. This is number 6 in a series of videos about making the temperature quilt, which I started in January of 2023. And it's currently January of 2024. Okay, so I almost got the quilt top together. I left off in the last video. I put the December squares on here and got that all done. And so that leaves me with 3 more blocks right here that I need to fill in. And I talk about that in my previous videos, how I ended up with this, because overall, to make the quilt even, I had 380 squares total. And so I'm left with 3 at the end. And what I decided to do was get the average high for all year, which came out to be 70, and the average low for the whole year was 53, and the average temperature all year was 62. So I couldn't find any of this data readily available online, but I have been tracking every month the temperatures, and I kept track of the high and the low every month. And so I just averaged the high and the low that I had and got that and those numbers, and then to get the average temperature all year, I just averaged the high and the low. And so that's what I'm going with here. And so I just went ahead and cut out the squares in each of those colors. So there's the high and the average and then the low. And then they're just going to get put in the quilt right there. And that'll finish that off. Okay, so that's one thing that I'm going to start off doing. Then I'm going to have to iron the quilt. And I'll get that done before I can make my quilt sandwich, right? Which actually, that whole business of making the quilt sandwich, that'll be another video in and of itself. So, okay, what I want to do was show how much fabric I have left. I'll insert a picture here of the pile of fabric that I started off with. Okay, so you can see it's gone down a lot. I did some calculations back in the beginning on how much fabric it would take to make these squares and a queen size quilt, and it was roughly around 9 yards of fabric it would take. That's taking into account seam allowances and everything else. So I knew it would take a lot. I have a lot of fabrics here, and I laid out like the temperature ranges. So the lowest temperature we had here was 19 degrees. So E was the first fabric, the lowest down I used. So I had these 4 other fabrics, these ones with black backgrounds, that I never even used in the quilt. And yeah, and then I had another one for over 100 degrees, which we hit 99. So I had one more. It's not sticking in this pile. And so anyways, but that's just what happened. So none of these got used. Some of them almost ran out. Like I just have like a very little amount, maybe like a quarter of a yard, and then what's that one? O. I have very little of O left. But I didn't, run out of any particular color, which was good. If I did, I was just gonna use another color, because I knew that, well, I was hoping that it would come out this way. So everything worked out. Some of these I only had like a half a yard. Some of them I had, have a couple of yards of them still. So that all worked out. And yeah, my temperatures go every 5 degrees. I changed colors. Yeah, so I have that. And then also, what I'm going to talk about in this video, and I'm not quite prepared to do this and how I'm going to do it, but I'll get it figured out. I have all these little pieces that got cut when I was cutting strips of, fabric off, and then there was, the 45 wide, and there was this much left. And so I've got all of these. So I thought I'd make a little color chart with these temperature variations, and I'm going to put it on the back of the quilt. And then I'll put like that it's a temperature quilt for 2023 and everything, and I'll do that, and I'll show you that what I'm going to do there. And I also have to pick out the backing, which I think I know what I'm going to use. I think I've got that figured out. I just have to locate that piece of fabric again. So yeah, so that's what I want to talk about in here, and how I'm going to make my little color chart with all these little pieces here. All right, so there's the quilt top. You can see the whole thing. So, of course, January starts in the top left, and yeah, and then we move down to the bottom corner right there, and you can see I just have the average high, average low, and then the average for the whole year right there in the bottom. And yeah, so we got a little bit more to figure out here. Get this quilt together. All right, so you can see I did get the quilt top together and everything. So it's been about a week and a half since I filmed last, and really did much with this quilt, because I've been crocheting, and so I've kind of got the crochet bug going right now, and the quilting has taken a little back seat to me doing some crochet, which is a very new thing for me. Okay, so hopefully I'll show you some of my crochet projects when I feel like they're worthy of showing on YouTube, right? Okay, because I certainly am not a teacher of crochet. It's just more of a show and tell that I'd be doing, right? All right, so anyways, let's talk about the quilt some more. I've kind of got myself in a spot thinking about different things that I could do with the quilt and to embellish it and everything. Showing it to people and hearing what they have to say. And some people who've never heard of such a thing are like, well, how would you know this is a temperature quilt? But in my mind, it's not about being a temperature quilt. It's about that I made a color fade quilt top. That's what I made, right? Okay, but there are these three really odd blocks down here at the end too. And I thought, well, it ain't gonna hurt, and I'm saying I'm gonna make a chart to put on the back of the quilt with these fabrics and showing, saying the temperatures. And so, well, let me show you this first. So I was thinking of doing the standard, and this can totally change also, like using like a piece of fabric like this, and making a chart and then making the label, basically, because that's what people do, make labels and apply them to the back of the quilt, right? And it was going to be kind of sizable anyways to get all these colors on there and all the words I want to say. And I was also thinking that I was going to put this fabric I have, it's a white background with little pink and blue flowers all over it. And I was like, that would work. And then I could apply that over top of it because it would have a pattern. And then I got to thinking about this quilt and what color of thread I wanted to quilt it with and what I really wanted to put on the back of it, because I really feel like it needs a darker background than that white. And then I was thinking blue quilt thread would look good. And I had this blue quilt thread that I thought would work really well on that, because I'm not stuck on white and natural colored quilting thread. I like to do colors. So I really think I want to do with the blue. And that got me thinking that I needed a blue background. And so I was thinking that if I had a blue fabric that has a flowery pattern on it, that would be spectacular. So I haven't totally decided on my back, but I do have this blue right here, which I think would be just fine. This is a little darker than that, but I think it'll be fine. And if I decide to go with this, the only problem is it's only 90 inches wide, and my quilt is 95 by 100, so I would definitely need more than that. I would have to piece a strip on it, right, if I decide to go with this. But I also am thinking I might go with, like, if I got like a 45-inch wide fabric, I was going to be piecing it anyway. So I don't have a problem with piecing it for the backing. So I haven't completely settled my mind on that yet either. And so when I got to thinking about it, if I was going to have a solid background, then I don't really need to make a label and apply it to the background. I could just apply these to the background, the backing. And if I do that, I don't want to do it until the quilt is mostly quilted, so that the fabric, I can know exactly where the corner of the backing fabric is going to be. So then I wouldn't quilt the corner of it exactly, and then I could lay this out. So I've decided the label, it's not going to be taken care of until way at the end, after this thing is almost all the way quilted. And we'll be there and make a video about that when I get there. But what I think I'm going to do is, for right now, what I'm thinking is maybe inch squares of each of these fabrics, and you know, just a little bit, and then people could look at that and compare to the, you know, the front if they so choose, right? So I was thinking, if this is the back, then to have those like lined up and then put the temperatures next to them. And then also I have the stitches that for the rain, the thunder, and snow and hail. Rainbows are pretty self-explanatory. And then I also want to put like 2020 Clark County, Indiana, high-low temperatures, my name, and a date when I get it finished. And so normally on my quilts, I have hand-stitched my name and a date onto them. And also my sewing machine has these changeable cartridges, and so I got one that has this alphabet on it, and it does cursive writing too. So I've used that a lot. And so when I get down and I've quilted and at the bottom edge before I put the binding on, I like stitch the name and date with this on the quilt, on the back of the quilt, and then I'll put the binding on. And it works out pretty well. So I'm in a debate if I want to do that, but that would be a nuisance to do it. It would be really, it'd be, not that I couldn't do it. It'd just be a nuisance running it through the sewing machine, and trying to do like all those dates. So I may end up making a backing, a separate, insert for the, you know, with all of this on there, just to make it a little bit easier, to do if I decide to do that and not use hand embroidery. So, second to that, the other thing I decided to do, is do some hand embroidery on the quilt. So these being the average, high, low, and then the average for the whole year, I was thinking I might hand embroider that on here. Average high, average low, and then the yearly average. I haven't decided about that. That's a lot of words to put right here, right? And the other thing that I pretty much have decided to do is mark the months. And so this is the top left corner where it started at January. And so I was thinking of putting like January, embroidering it here and doing that on all the months. And so I've got those marked on the quilt, which, you know, to do that. And then I also thought, well, if I'm going to do that, then why not mark where the seasons change? Because that's kind of interesting to see with the way the temperatures flow and where the actual seasons change. So this is where winter started, and so I could just put winter there. So I got my mom's bag of all this embroidery floss. This was her miscellaneous bag of embroidery floss, and so I've got all these colors, and of course I could use different colors depending on what color it lands on, you know, so it'll stand out, and everything. So I've got that to do, and I don't know how long it's going to take me to get around to doing that and everything else. So I'm going to be working on the quilt, and I will be back, you know, after I get some more settled out. But once I get these things put on the top, hand embroidery these things on, I think at that point that's when I'll iron it, and then I can get the layers together. And then hopefully by the time I do that, I will have it sorted out in my mind what I'm going to do with the for the backing and with the label, with the temperatures and stuff. So anyways, you can stay tuned for that, and hopefully I'll have some other videos in the meantime put up of some other projects I'm working on and everything. So all right, thanks for watching.